Happy and healthy. These are the stock answers most parents give when asked what they want for their young children, when deep down what they really want is for them to be quietly occupied.
Give me the iPad.
For centuries, that was achieved through rocks and sticks and imagination. Then came comic books and TV, and now we have the iPad.
Okay, parents, we gotta talk. We seem often to forget just how new so much of this technology that we take for granted as being an integral part of our daily lives really is. We've had home televisions for about 100 years, home computers about 40, game consoles about 30, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing. But we've had smartphones, iPads, and tablets. Those have been mainstream for less than 10 years, which means that this very last generation of kids is the first generation to have this kind of technology from day one. And we are seeing that the parents of these kids, by and large, out of their own ignorance and apathy, have allowed their children to become helplessly addicted to this technology that they're using as a parental crutch. You can't just give your kid an iPad instead of actually doing your job as a parent. Well, actually you can, which is precisely the problem. And as a result of this reckless parenting, kids are more tired and irritable. They are zoned out beyond all belief.
Jackson, what are you playing?
I would like to see you make the letters. Touch the screen with your finger.
And because of the structured nature of an iPad versus the unstructured nature of a traditional toy in terms of how you can play with it, kids are substantially less creative, as well as being a lot less social. Yeah, your kids are behaving at the dinner table with non-existent effort from you as a parent, but at what cost? These kids are little drug addicts.
I want an iPad.
I need to take the iPad to work.
Their dopamine receptors have been so abused that they no longer respond to dopamine from natural sources. Now they only respond to Cocomelon. This obsessive use of handheld technology along with online video games where kids aren't playing outside anymore and they're not even going to a friend's house and running split screen or sharing controllers like we used to. They're not getting normal everyday social interactions from their online schools, and if they are in school, they're not even seeing each other's faces. In 10 years, we are going to have a fresh crop of zombies who are completely and utterly incapable of functioning in the real world. And I promise you, I'm not being overdramatic. Look at the way these kids act when you take away their iPad.
I want my iPad back. I want my iPad back.
Of course, kids will naturally cry and throw a fit to get their way. This kid is even starting to get physical, which these parents are just responding to by laughing at him. They're not trying to diffuse his anger. They're not trying to explain it to him. Their first response was to pull out their phone and start recording so that they could laugh at him and then post it on social media. Or, with this young girl, the parents know exactly why she's crying, but yet they continue to ask her over and over again, what do you want?
What do you want?
iPad.
Lou, what do you want, babe?
I want an iPad.
And notice when they do this that the girl actually calms down for a moment, because when her parents ask her what she wants, she immediately thinks, oh, the issue is not that I can't have the iPad. The issue is that my parents don't know that I want it. The issue is not that the iPad is unavailable. The issue is a lapse in communication. Obviously, she's not thinking that verbatim, but you get the point. There shouldn't even be a conversation here. You want the iPad? Sorry, you can't have the iPad right now. That's it. But instead, they are rubbing salt in the wound for their own entertainment so that they can post the video on YouTube, on the internet, so they can get their little screen points, which brings us truly to the root of the problem. It's not that the iPad is unavailable. It's not that this girl is having a difficulty communicating with her parents. The issue is her parents have allowed her to become helplessly addicted to this technology, and that's happened because these parents are just as addicted. So much so that they're willing to sit there and torture their young daughter for social media likes. Oh, Def a must-see video. Yeah, let's all laugh at this crying child like a bunch of psychopaths. Obviously, there hasn't been enough thought put into how damaging this technology could be for these kids. Think about it like this. If this kid isn't playing or spending time with other kids or other people and is instead just bouncing back and forth between Zoom calls and YouTube videos, if they're interacting with technology more than they interact with other real people, they will not be learning how to interact and behave around other people. They will be learning their social cues from the screen instead of real people. And you do this too. You will unknowingly model social behavior off of the screen people. You might not have noticed, but basically all social expressions on the internet need to be over-exaggerated to feel normal. Do you ever actually pay attention to the way people talk and behave on YouTube videos and on the internet?
So what I need from you guys is to go down and smash that like button.
Nobody talks like that in any other context. You know how insane that is? I am sitting here in front, I'm screaming at a camera like a crazy person, and you're just sitting like, yes, this is normal content. You gotta keep in mind that for us, we are balancing this with other social interactions with real people, hopefully. But if you're a young kid and you're spending all day inside, you are seeing this all day, every day. You are modeling your social behavior off of streamers and YouTubers. Just imagine, in like 5 years, a young adult walks into a coffee shop showing obvious signs of excessive screen use. So this young man, he gets to the front of the line, and because YouTube taught him everything he knows about talking to people, he just... Yo, what's up, barista lady? Today, I'll be getting a medium iced caramel latte with whole milk. But first, in order to compensate the business you work for, who will then compensate you for your labor, I'll be swiping the credit card that my mom lets me use. Is that too far-fetched? Like, is that really that crazy? Like, look at these kids.
I'm sorry, bud. You can't have an iPad.
Okay, so here's the point. It's obviously your job as a parent to make sure that your child gets properly socialized, that they know how to be polite, say please and thank you, that they know their table manners, high energy or not, know how to sit down and be quiet and be patient in public, know how to look people in the eyes and say hello. These are all things that instead of teaching them, you can just shove an iPad in their face and pacify them, which is a selfish move on these parents because, like, yeah, maybe your kid's not screaming and crying, but if their iPad is blasting Coco Melon on full volume, that isn't much better for everyone else. And just because you've tweaked the settings so that allegedly they can only see videos that are made for kids, that does not in the slightest bit mean that you can trust other people with the minds of your impressionable kids. And no matter what, if they're on the internet unsupervised, they will inevitably be exposed to content that you as a parent do not approve of. So if you don't do anything about that, you're very simply complicit. As I mentioned earlier, so many of these kids are simply not getting enough outside unstructured play. I am going to stress this. Back in my day, me and the boys used to take our Nerf gun to the park and play little attack and defense games in the woods. I don't see kids doing that anymore. Also, when we played video games, we had to actually be in the same place to play together. DS connection range was like the living room couch, the kitchen table. Sometimes you'd have more friends over than you had controllers, so you'd have to find a system of switching off so everyone actually gets to play, including dealing with the little brat kid who never wanted to give up his controller, all of which is important social development skills. But as I stressed earlier, it's not these kids' fault. It's not their fault. It's not their fault they're helplessly addicted to the iPad. It's not their fault that the world around them is preventing them from growing up like regular kids. It's not their fault that their parents were apathetic enough to pass down their screen addiction to them, which is exactly what this is. It's addicts raising more addicts, which these companies are happily capitalizing on with their big temper tantrum proof kid tablets with the big soft edges, so that when your kid lashes out in a violent fit of anger because no one ever taught him how to temper his emotions, he can't use his tablet as a bludgeon, which I've seen before. It was crazy. The whole school was talking about it for like a week. But look, the consequences of the screen are very real and very plain to see. You don't need an expert to see this. You don't need an expert to see what's going on here. On one hand, we have the iPad kid. And on the other hand, we have the healthy kid who is never subject to the screen poison.
Let me show you guys what happens if you never give your kid a phone or an iPad. So this is my iPad. I've had it long before he was born. He's seen me use it a few times, so let me show you what happens if I put it near him.
Like that.
Is that not greatly preferable? Look, Right off the bat, the fact that anyone can say iPad kid and you immediately know what they're talking about is evidence in itself that there's a problem. If your parenting strategy relies on hyper-addicting technology, all you're doing is setting your kid up for failure. These kids, if they don't go outside and have unstructured play with other kids, they will never learn how to be creative. They will never learn how to color outside of the lines, and instead, they will be perfectly obedient drones who only know how to follow the rules. Reject the screen poison, embrace the trad wooden blocks. iPads are bad. That's all I got. Thank you for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe, App, download, Instagram, Twitter. Log off the internet.